pretty difficult for me to follow that, but fantastic. And thank you, all three of the first speakers, for giving their insight and their knowledge into the industry. Okay, as many of you will be aware, there is a debate happening in this building behind us this afternoon. So it's only right that we do hear from some politicians, for them to earn their money, and for them to stand in front of you. So can I ask first Mr. Andrew R.T. Davis, Fiona Bjorwith, and Sam Kurtz and Cleo Griffith to come forward to give your deliberation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and can I thank you all for coming here to Cardiff Bay today. But more importantly, can I thank you for what you do as a community. You feed the nation, you build communities across Wales, you strengthen those communities, but above all, by standing here today, you're sending a message to the Welsh Parliament and the Welsh Government that you're not happy. And you're not happy with the sustainable farming scheme. Are you happy with the sustainable farming scheme? You'll need to be louder than that, because Cathays Park, where the Welsh Government devised this scheme, is across the other end of Cardiff. Are you happy with the sustainable farming scheme? I think you might have just about heard that. But what we as an industry do is make sure that we provide the food for this nation while protecting the environment. And above all, what we must continue to do and be allowed to do is produce that food, protect our environment, and allow the next generation who wear those shoes and boots to come forward and farm like we have and our predecessors before us. And when you have a scheme on the table that talks about taking 5,500 farmers out of existence, reduces cattle numbers by 125,000, takes out 800,000 sheep, and takes £200 million out of the economic output of the rural economy, then that really does put a question mark over where we're going as a country and where we're going as an industry. And I give you this commitment that from the Welsh Conservatives' perspective, we will work with any politicians to make sure we secure that future and make that gain. And whilst the Welsh Government made an announcement yesterday on TB and on looking at NVZs, regrettably as we stand here today, nothing has changed. And it's still the case that NVZs and the lack of progress on TB have also caused you to come here today and let your presence be felt and heard. Now, what we want to make sure is that that presence manifests itself into change. So do you want to see change in the sustainable farming scheme? Yeah! Do you want to farm for the future and for this country? Yeah! And above all, do you believe that you are the best farmers in the world who produce the best food in the world? Then let's make change happen and let's get this scheme right so that we can carry on doing what we do best, which is farm and care for our environment. Thank you once again, and you've conducted yourselves marvellously. Let's continue that and make sure our voices are heard loud and clear. Thank you.
Prynhawn da, it's wonderful to see so many of you here today. Gadwch i mi ddeud hyn, does yna ddim Cymru heb ei chefn gwlad. There is no Wales without rural Wales. A does yna ddim cefn gwlad hyfyw heb gefnogaeth ei llywodraeth. And we cannot have a vibrant rural Wales without its government here in Cardiff and in Westminster being willing to be champions for it and backing it at every turn. That is a clear message here on the steps of the Senedd today. From the food on our tables, to our living communities and to our rural environments and the health of biodiversity in rural Wales, it is agriculture that binds all of this together, that cares for this, that produces it. And I see you all here today, people who've made the long journey from my neck of the woods, from my constituency, from Ynys Môn, Dach Gweld Chi, Cyfeillion Da, my good friends here from across Wales today. And I see real determination. And I look across the generation studying for a degree in agriculture and his generation, and I look at my niece and my nephews and at their determination to want to put down their own roots, to be the future of agriculture and to be the future of our rural economies and our rural communities. We owe it to all of them. We win this fight for rural Wales by acting together, just as you have come together here on the steps of the Senedd today. And it gives me so much pleasure and gives us so much strength to be here standing with you. But let's celebrate the fact that so many people have made the journey here today. Let's make our plea that enough is enough, one that is impossible to ignore. You can, and importantly, we together can make that difference and achieve that change. On SFS, on regulations, on TB, we in Plaid Cymru will be your voice, speaking on your behalf in that Senedd today, because enough is enough. Digon yw digon, a diolch I bob un ohonoch chi.
Well, everybody, what an experience this is. I'm a politician, yes. Secondly, first, I'm a farmer's son. And one word that has resonated with me throughout this whole debate is that of community. That community that we get our strength from. And we'll hear some powerful and passionate and emotive stories later, but let me share with you mine. Some years ago, when my father took ill and he was lying in intensive care, it was the farming community who helped us take cattle down to Whitland Mart to sell. When my father was in intensive care, it was the farming community, our farming friends, who helped feed us by making sure that there was food on our table when we came back from Withybush Hospital. It is because of those farming friends, because of those farming colleagues and that community, I stand here today in solidarity with each and every single one of you against what this Welsh Government is proposing in sustainable farming scheme, against Bovine TV and against the NPZ. It is for our communities, generations before us and generations to come, that we stand here against those proposals. We want to work with politicians. We want to make the changes necessary, but work with us. Acknowledge the work that we are already doing in protecting our environment, in supplying sustainable food for our family and our nation. Acknowledge that the answers lie with us, the farmers, not the questions. We are the solution to the problems. Work with us. And so help me God, I will continue to stand up and be a voice for every single farmer here today that wants to see a better future, not just for themselves, but for their kids and their children's children, to make sure that Wales continues to be, as it always has been, the pinnacle of agriculture in the world. So proud of my father, of the work that he undertakes on the farm at home. And I share that pride in every single one of you who toils so hard to supply us with food. Thank you. But please take that pride forward today of knowing you've been part of something special. February 28th, 2024, let's all go home and remember and speak to those future generations that we've protected their livelihoods by telling them, I was there. I was there. And if I am ever lucky enough to have a family of my own, by God, I will tell them that that was the proudest moment of my life, was to be able to address you and tell you that I'm doing everything that I can. I haven't stood back and let other people do things. I've been there trying my best on your behalf, and it's been an absolute pleasure to do it, and I will continue to do it. 28th of February 2024. I was there.
Diolch fawr Sam, mae mor hyfryd gweld gymaint ohonoch chi yma, y prynhawn mae'r gweithio'r glaw yn dod ar neges yn glir i galon Democratiaeth Cymru, gan obeithio bydd Llywodraeth Cymru yn clywed y neges mae nifer ohono ni wedi bod wedi ffrwygethu ers blynyddoedd maith. Now, many of us stood with the miners 40 years ago when they were fighting for their livelihoods. Many are standing today with the steel workers of Port Talbot who are absolutely, quite rightly, fighting for their livelihoods. Well, this is no different. This is no different. Rural Wales has exactly the same right to be standing up for its own livelihood, and that's exactly what we're doing. But when we see an impact assessment that tells us 5,500 jobs, direct jobs, will disappear, let alone the other jobs within the wider food and drink sector in Wales. When that tells us that 200 million pounds worth of income will be lost to the sector, well, that isn't the just transition that the miners were demanding, that the steelworkers are demanding, and that every single one of you and us are here today demanding as well. We are entitled to that just transition. So why is that all right for some, but not for the others? That's the question we're asking here today. Now, this is why I was the member of the Senate that put forward the motion to scrap the NVZs 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Now, we lost the vote narrowly, but we're not giving up. We're still doing everything we can to make sure that anything that is introduced works for farmers. Plaid Cymru today is supporting